Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The former Minister of Defence of Germany, Ursula von der Leyen, was confirmed by the European Parliament as a new President of the European Commission this evening by 383 votes to 327 against. With more on how this choice was viewed in Poland, here is Alexander Zajicka from the Polish Parliament in Warsaw.
Today,
the European Parliament chose the new president of the European Commission. Part of the Polish opposition claims that the ruling party's opinion on this matter is of no consequence in Europe. One example is the rejection of Beata Szydło's candidacy for the chairmanship of the European Parliament's Employment and Social Affairs Committee. Law and Justice politicians claim that this situation was a revenge for blocking the vice president of the European Commission, Frans Timmermans' candidacy for president of the Commission. The deputy marshal of the same, Ryszard Terlecki, didn't want to reveal the Law and Justice Party's opinion about Ursula von der Leyen's candidacy. However, Law and Justice Party member of the European Parliament Zbigniew Kuźmiuk said that when it comes to the functioning and the future of the European Union, von der Leyen's views are similar to those of Poland's ruling party. On the other hand, he emphasized the fact that during her meeting with other fractions, some differences came to light. Law and Justice Party politicians didn't want to state their position on this matter.
The influence of the Polish government is non-existent, since the Law and Justice put itself on the sidelines of the European political scene. With a heavy heart, I must say that the Polish officials have no say on matters such as this.
If she's supporting the concept of a united Europe and the stopping of climate change, then I don't think the Law and Justice Party will be making friends with Mrs. von der Leyen.
A few years ago, when France would make some decisions with Germany, along with the support of a few Western European countries, they would always have the last word. Today it's different, and of course it's not like we want Polish dictatorship, but we simply demand more respect for what Poland and other countries of the Visegrad Group have to say.
The newly elected President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has presented the three priorities on which she will focus during her term of office. The first priority is to reach climate neutrality in Europe by 2050. The second is to prevent breaches of the rule of law in member states of the European Union. The third is to adopt a flexible approach to Brexit, with her being prepared to contemplate a further extension of the withdrawal date if required for a good reason.
For centuries, Europeans fought so hard for their liberty and independence. The rule of law is our best tool to defend these freedoms and to protect the most vulnerable in our union. I fully support an EU-wide rule of law mechanism, and to be clear, the new instrument is not an alternative to the existing instruments, but an additional one. For the very first time in 2016, a member state decided to leave the European Union. This is a serious decision. We regret it, but we respect it. Since then, together with the current government of the United Kingdom, the European Union has worked hard to organize the orderly departure of the United Kingdom. If we close the gaps between us, we can turn tomorrow's challenges in tomorrow's opportunities. Honourable members, our most pressing challenge is keeping our planet healthy. This is the greatest responsibility and opportunity of our times. I want Europe to become the first climate-neutral continent in the world by 2050.
Today, the government has adopted a new income tax bill. This proposes lowering the lowest rate of income tax from 18% to 17%. At a meeting with the management employees of the Turbadzin company, a leading producer of ceramic tiles in Poland, the Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, said that the tax reduction would in effect result in a next salary gain for working people.
Our tax-lowering programs, and particularly lowering of income tax, which is going to be effective starting October 1st, 2019, also this morning of the Council of Ministers meeting. This new tax bill will cause a net gain of salary for every single working person in Poland, for everyone across the board. This is also true for retirees, because they pay the income tax on their benefits. Everyone will receive this financial perk. This is happening this year.
The relationship between Turkey on the one side and the European Union and the United States on the other is deteriorating quickly. The Turkish authorities have announced that they will send additional drilling platforms to the disputed waters around Cyprus, despite EU threats of sanctions. Turkish President Erdogan also remains determined to conclude the purchase of the Russian S-400 missile system, which is bound to put the country on a collision course with its main NATO ally, the United States of America.
The Turkish president praised the S-400 missile system at the opening ceremony of Ankara's new police headquarters, telling reporters that Russian planes are currently delivering the system to Turkey and that the next step for Turkey is to co-produce the missiles together with Russia. We have started to receive S-400 missiles. They told us you can't buy them, you can't station them, it wouldn't be right to buy them. As of today, the 8th cargo plane has arrived and started to unload. God willing, we'll finalize the process in April 2020. After that, in terms of air defense systems, will be among the top countries in the world. Now our goal is to co-produce with Russia. We'll do this. We'll go even further. The US government argues that the purchase is not compatible with NATO's defense network and has made it clear that Turkey will be excluded from the F-35 fighter jet program if it goes through with the deal. Meanwhile, EU foreign ministers have decided to suspend negotiations on the Comprehensive Air Transport Agreement and have agreed not to hold the Association Council and further meetings of the EU-Turkey high-level dialogues, as long as Turkey continues drilling projects in the maritime economic zone of Cyprus. The Turkish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mevlut Cavusoglu, has dismissed the EU's reaction and states that Turkey will send a drilling ship to the area as soon as possible. We told them as well, if you take such decisions directed at Turkey, we will increase our activity. I'm saying here too that we have 3 ships there. God willing, we will send the 4th ship to the Eastern Mediterranean as soon as possible. Let them understand that they cannot deal with Turkey with such methods. We decide what we do on our continental shelf. The tensions between the West and Turkey started after Turkey's decision to improve its relations with Russia in 2015, just weeks after having shot down a Russian fighter jet over the Turkish-Syrian border.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Otterstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Tonight the temperatures will vary from 9 degrees in the area of Rzeszów up to 13 degrees in Krakow, Katowice, also in Wrocław and up in Gdańsk. As we can see, quite a bit of showers will be appearing tonight in the eastern parts of the country, also around Warsaw, in the south as well as in the north. Now let's check the forecast for tomorrow. So tomorrow still the temperatures will be quite a bit lower than in the next few days. 17 degrees will be seen in central Poland, in Warsaw and Łódź, the maximum of 21 in Rzeszów and Krakow. In the north we will see from 17 in Olsztyn up to 19 in Gdańsk and Koszalin and 18 in the west. And there will be quite a lot of sun tomorrow, but also some showers will be appearing throughout the whole country almost. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight we'll talk about drones because few people realize that Poland is one of the countries that are really heavy relying on developing of this technology. Mrs. Małgorzata Darowska of Ministry of Infrastructure is overseeing that project. Thank you very much for visiting our studio tonight. And let us say what we do differently than other countries.
As you said at the very beginning, yes, we are in the, let's say, we are one of the leaders in the world in terms of introducing drones into the economy. What we do differently, I think, I would say we find our own way in introducing drones into the market, and we do it. Of course, we are looking what's going on abroad, but we have very precise plan how to do this. When we talk about the infrastructure of drones, so the whole, let's say, idea how the drones should operate into the country in the country, and also how to promote the drone services in the economy. I see that we are very advanced. I don't like to talk that we are leaders and so on, but the fact is that we are. Yes, we are. What we do differently, I think that I would maybe focus on the airspace. Our structure of airspace is different than in the United States. And so when you look at the United States, we must do differently. So, and we are smaller than the United States, of course. And also our economy is different. So we don't have big tech champions so far, but I hope that based on this specific project, we have a chance to build tech champions. We are very well organized, so I think that our advantage is that we decided to integrate the efforts of all stakeholders, not only the public administration, but also the industry, the startups, the local government, and the providers of drone services. So integration is our, let's say, our sign, which make us different from other countries.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that this particular technology, the drone transportation, can lead us to build a tech champion in this field. So how do you imagine that? What will this tech company do? Or where are the opportunities for such company?
Again, first I will focus on the airspace and the management of airspace. This is one, let's say, opportunity for us, for our companies, for our business. The digital infrastructure that is being prepared for drones, for autonomous and automated drones, it's a new internet of the structure of Internet of Things. So comparing to the internet at the beginning of 2000, you can just imagine that what's going to happen when we will introduce the let's say, the backbone of the internet. I can just predict that, and I can see it every day, that there's a huge opportunity for soft companies, also for producers of components, for microprocessors, for example. Everything which will form the future Internet of Things in the airspace, in the lower airspace. So for example, just the value of the system for managing airspace, this ACT is about 2 billion euro. But this is the existing system. But the value of the whole ecosystem for internet will be much, much bigger. Another field for the business is, of course, the use of drones. First, of course, the producers of drones has an opportunity, because the value of the drone market in Poland, it was estimated for 3.2 billion zlotys up to until 2026. But this is just the value of, let's say, flying objects. But the value of the integration of drones into the economy is in the, let's say, according to MIT estimates, more than 500 billion zlotys until 2026.
How do you make these estimates? Based on what?
Based on the statistic data, it was prepared by the Polish Institute of Economy, and it was the methodology that was used was the same, which is being used by the big, let's say, worldwide.
We are talking about the new services that are not yet available, or we are talking on the savings because the drone traffic will take some business from the existing transportation.
I would say both, but the accent will be put more on the non-existing services, because now we can imagine what can happen. For example, the inspections can be made with the use of drones, the transportation, of course, but in the future, based on different information, many information will be gathered and put in one place. You can use the data to provide new services. It's a digital economy, simply.
So there is a new exciting way of economy, the new exciting wave of innovation that are in front of us. And it's good to know that Poland is in the cutting edge of these solutions.
Yes, we are doing our best.
Okay, so at least we are a little bit more enlightened. Małgorzata Darowska works at Ministry of Infrastructure and takes care of this particular exciting and new part of our economy. Thank you very much for visiting the studio. And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Good evening. Welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. I'm Polina Adlerstein. On Wednesday in Poland, we will see quite a bit of rain throughout the whole country, but there will also be a lot of sun. The temperatures will vary from 17 degrees in Olsztyn, Warsaw and Łódź, up to 21 degrees in Rzeszów and Krakow, 19 degrees around Białystok in the northeast, and 18 degrees will be seen in the western parts of the country. And now let's see what will happen in Europe tomorrow. So up to 36 degrees in Madrid, but there will also be some possible clouds, 23 degrees in Lisbon, Portugal, quite a bit cooler in Helsinki, only 16 degrees with possible thunderstorms, 16 degrees also in Stockholm, and 21 in Oslo, 25 degrees will be seen in London and 26 in Paris, so still very warm, 27 degrees in Bratislava and 28 in the Athens, so a bit cooler than the last few weeks were. This is all for tonight. Thank you.
Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. I'm John Carter.
And I'm Polina Adlerstein, and today we're exploring the Museum of Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz in Podkowa Leśna.
They are one of Poland's greatest literary couples, so come and join us as we find out more about this literary couple.
Stawisko is the name which Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz gave to the estate they received as a wedding gift from Anna's father, Stanisław Wilhelm Lilpop, in 1920. In 1928, a traditional Polish manor house was built there. For over 50 years, it was their home and maintained its character as a literary and artistic center. Many people fell under the spell of its picturesque setting near beautiful woods, its tranquility, and indeed the unique atmosphere of the house itself. Many of the writer's best-known works were written there. During World War II, Stawisko became a place in which many refugees from Warsaw found shelter. The Museum of Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz was established there after the writer's death, in accordance with his will.
Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. Today we're visiting the Museum of Anna and Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz in Podkowa Leśna, and my guest is Mrs. Beata Izdebska-Zybała. Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Culture.
Good evening.
The museum was established after Mrs. and Mr. Iwaszkiewicz's death. Who founded it and when?
The museum was founded in 1984, 4 years after Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz's death. He died in March 1980. It was Anna and Jarosław's will to found a museum named after them in their house.
W domu powstało Muzeum imienia Anny i Jarosława Iwaszkiewiczów. Kilka lat trwało
It took a few years for the museum to be finally opened.
otwarcie, to były 4 lata, wszystkie muzealia, zbiory, książki.
The Warsaw Museum of Literature's workers wrote down the entire museum collections, books and archives, and the museum was opened in 1984.
Zostało otwarte to muzeum.
Does the museum belong to the descendants of Mr. and Mrs. Iwaszkiewicz?
Muzeum zostało przekazane na rzecz państwa.
No, the museum is the state's property. It's the property of the Ministry of Culture and National Heritage. The district head of the Grodzisk Mazowiecki County is the organizer of this unit, so we can say that this is the county museum.
Merytoryczne ambicje bycia ważnym. Współpracujemy z Muzeum Literatury.
Our ambition is to become an important cultural center. We work together with the Warsaw Museum of Literature and other museums in Poland.
Ekspozycję stałą muzeum czy archiwalia, o których opowiem.
Aside from the permanent exhibition, of which we are going to talk about later, we organize the literary meetings with writers. During these kind of meetings, we talk about the latest books.
Spotkania z pisarzami, ale też organizujemy koncerty muzyczne.
Also, we have been organizing concerts in Stawisk for many years. We call them musical confrontations.
Stacje muzyczne, które jest autorski projekt obecnej pani dyrektor Alicji Matrackiej-Kościelny.
The initiator of this event is the director, Mrs. Alicja Matracki-Kościelny. The musical confrontations will be held this year as well.
Ale ta oferta kulturalna to są niedzielne spotkania.
This time focused on Szymanowski, a famous pianist. So we have in our offer Sunday meetings with writers and men of science during which we talk about all kinds of things, especially about literature.
Śmierci Iwaszkiewicza organizujemy spotkania.
Every year on the anniversary of Iwaszkiewicz's birth or death, we organize meetings dedicated to his work and the work of writers close to him. I can talk about the meeting from last year. It was the year of the 100th anniversary of Poland regaining its independence. So the meeting was dedicated to members of the Polish group of experimental poets called Skamander.
Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz. Jak wiemy, było 5 skamandrytów: Jan Lechoń, Kazimierz Wierzyński.
As we know, there were 5 members of this group: Jan Lechon, Kazimierz Wierzyński, Julian Tuwim, Antoni Słonimski, and Iwaszkiewicz. This was a very important anniversary, and that was the reason why we organized so many meetings dedicated to this group. There were concerts, but also film screenings, and this is the museum's activity.
Prowadzimy.
What can you tell me about the exhibitions? I've seen the Moniuszko exhibition.
Wpisujemy się w tę działalność.
This year is dedicated to the work of Stanisław Moniuszko. Of course, our museum is part of it.
Herlinga Grudzińskiego. Na wrzesień planujemy spotkanie poświęcone jego twórczości.
We have Gustav Herling Grudziński's year. We are planning to organize a meeting dedicated to his work in September. We are going to organize a concert as well.
Czy ustanowione przez parlament, prawda? To my w to się również wpisujemy.
Our museum is trying to be a part of everything that the government introduces. These are the outdoor exhibitions. We also organize exhibitions during which we show our own collections.
I na przykład parę miesięcy temu, właściwie w maju, podczas Nocy Muzeów.
A few months ago, in May, during the Night of Museums, we presented the Iwaszkiewicz collection of china.
Porcelana stołowa Iwaszkiewiczów. I właśnie w tym pomieszczeniu
we presented the china that the Iwaszkiewicz family had been collecting their entire life in this very room. Some of it belonged to the Lilpop family. We chose some of it and prepared an exhibition.
I na tej wystawie to pokazaliśmy.
The house has retained its original architecture and now shows the life and work of people who lived there. The museum possesses several valuable collections. The archives hold the majority of Jarosław Iwaszkiewicz's manuscripts, which includes books collected by Iwaszkiewicz for many years, as well as some which belonged to his father. The photographic archive contains over 100,000 items from different periods, including those from an African safari in 1910. The museum also possesses an interesting musical archive with notes and musical manuscripts. In addition, the house contains a fine collection of Polish paintings from 19th and 20th century, as well as valuable pieces of furniture, works of art and objects of everyday use. Their interiors have maintained their original character. The house gives the impression that its tenants are only temporarily absent. As in the past, the rooms are filled with literature, music and art. Each year, many chamber music concerts, literary meetings and exhibitions take place in Stawisko.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. On June 28th this year, Poland celebrated the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Versailles Treaty. The Versailles Treaty forced Germany to allow a Polish state to be reborn, as well as respecting its western border. An accomplishment largely owed to the famous pianist Ignacy Paderewski. Today we will be speaking to the historian Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka about the background, the implementation, and the importance of the Versailles Treaty. Dr. Jabłonka, can you tell me how did it came about that a pianist became one of the most prominent politicians in Poland and ended up signing the treaty that is the foundation of Poland's freedom?
To rzeczywiście jest wyjątkowa sytuacja.
It is indeed an extraordinary situation when one of the greatest composers of the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century became also one of the most prominent promoters of the independence of his nation. We need to understand one important thing. In the 19th century, in 1864 to be precise, the last grand national uprising comes to an end. It was the uprising of all the nations of Poland, so the people from Poland, Ukraine, Lithuania and Belarus. Since then, no one talked about Poles. Poles became the forgotten nation of the world. A new generation was born which didn't even know where Poland had been before, not to mention where it was back then. Paderewski's popularity at the time was even greater than the popularity of such bands as the Rolling Stones in modern days, and we know that's the greatest fame in the music industry one could ask for. Whenever he came, people would again talk about Poland. When Paderewski hit the keys, he would often play Chopin's music. He always said that despite the French ring to Chopin's name, he was a Pole nonetheless. And then people would ask, where is Poland? And they searched for it on maps between the three great countries. Paderewski would then say that if a nation that supposedly doesn't exist creates such wonderful music, then it must be existent after all. Apart from Chopin, he also played lots of Polish folk music. He stressed that in this way he paid a tribute to his homeland. There are many anecdotes about him, for example, that he was the greatest politician among pianists and the greatest pianist among politicians. This saying was of course trying to show that he wasn't perfect in both of these spheres. The truth, however, lies somewhere else. He was a great composer who was able to direct all of his fame towards his nation, which prepared him for this role. When Paderewski made his mark at the international scene, every world leader and every nation would say, "Here comes Poland," and returns to Europe's maps. Hence, his contribution was undeniable and meaningful. He was important since the Polish nation was divided in its approach to regaining freedom, and he was a man of agreement. He was called an angel of peace. He brought Poles to a united strategy before the Versailles Treaty. I will share one last anecdote from Paderewski's own memoirs. After one of his energetic concerts ended with a wonderful cascade of sounds, the president of France, Poincaré, rose to congratulate him, saying, "Allow me to shake the hand of the son of the great Russian nation." Paderewski then lowered his hands and said, "Allow me then to shake the hand of the President of Great Britain." Poincaré responded by saying, "I am not from Great Britain," and Paderewski, "Well, I'm not from Russia either." By doing so, he left some space in the French president's head to think about Poland.
Ja nie jestem z Wielkiej Brytanii, a ja nie jestem z Rosji, odpowiadał Paderewski. I w ten sposób prezydentowi Francji stworzył wolne miejsce w myśleniu dla Polski.
In 1910, Paderewski funded the erection of the Battle of Grunwald Monument in Krakow, in commemoration of the 500th anniversary of Poland's victorious battle against the Teutonic Order. He spoke at the unveiling of the monument and proved to be a great speaker. He used his talent and the fact that he was not a politician to rise above political divisions. Next up, we will ask Dr. Jabłonka about his role as a unifying force of Polish interests at the Paris Peace Conference. So can you go into more specific details about what role Paderewski played during the Paris Peace Conference and later on the signing of the Versailles Treaty?
Oczywiście z polskiego punktu widzenia była to najlepsza rola.
From the Polish standpoint, it was the best role he could have played at the time. Let us remember, Poles had no politicians known at the international scene, since they all were social activists, financed by Count Maurycy Zamoyski, who gave his own money to sustain the existence of the Polish National Committee. Hence, the representative of the committee, Roman Dmowski, was one of the people who signed the Versailles Treaty. Meanwhile, Master Paderewski, as he was often called, played a conciliatory role. In Poland, the left wing ruled, the right wing demanded being included in the government. To calm down the atmosphere in his homeland, Paderewski returned to Poland through Poznań, where the Greater Poland Uprising broke out in his honor. When he got to Warsaw, Marshal Piłsudski offered him the position of Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Being a minister of his own government and bearing the full support of Piłsudski and other members of the government, he went to Paris for the peace conference, which began in Versailles on January 18, 1919. It was on the exact same day that Germany announced the formation of the Second Reich after the French-Prussian War in 1871, and in the exact same place, in the same room even. In 1919, the same Second Reich was to end with the Versailles Treaty. The National Polish Committee received a lot of help from Count Maurycy Zamoyski, but Paderewski himself got special help from the Count as well. Count Zamoyski paid a lot of money to rent a whole building in Paris to employ a few dozen people for the treaty works. Special maps were prepared to explain where Poland was and why exactly it should be where it was. The illegality of the partitions was also showcased, arguing that the law shouldn't protect the criminal acts against the whole nation. Thanks to that, Zamoyski became a prominent figure of the Endecja, or the national democracy. In exchange, the Democrats promised Zamoyski to make him the first president of Poland after the 123 years of enslavement, if they won the first free elections. However, the right wing, lacking very little votes to prevail, couldn't fulfill that promise. Their opponents were not only the minorities like Polish Jews, Ukrainians, Germans or Belarusians, but mainly the peasantry, which didn't want to see such a wealthy magnate as their president. That is why they voted for a man of no big significance, who was a nobleman as well, but a minor one, a Lithuanian of origin, Gabriel Narutowicz. To choose someone who was considered a foreigner for a president of Poland was too much of an offense for the National Democrats, and in the end, unfortunately, one of them shot him.
Był nim Gabriel Narutowicz. Wybranie kogoś spoza Polski premierem, prezydentem, pierwszym prezydentem Polski było kamieniem obrazy dla polskich narodowców. I niestety jeden z nich go zastrzelił.
As we have seen today, the Versailles Treaty was crucial for Poland to reappear on the map after 123 years of partition by Russia, Prussia, and Austria. The Polish delegation to Paris had to work hard to convince the great powers to draft a treaty that's favorable to Poland. It was made possible by the excellent cooperation between the three fathers of Polish independence, Piłsudski, Dmowski, Paderewski, showing just how much can be done by working together. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Now see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Travel. This next series of episodes will take you to Konstancin, just south of Warsaw. It's about 20 kilometers from the Palace of Culture in the center of Warsaw. Konstancin is famous as a spa town. It was started about 120 years ago, and people still go there on a regular basis to take the waters. We'll also stop off and have a conversation and a meal with Nick Richardson at the Park Cafe and Restaurant. This is one of the fine outdoor eating experiences you can have in the whole area of Warsaw. The Kolczynski family always makes everyone feel welcome. So enjoy the weather, and we hope you enjoy the conversation. Stay tuned for Poland Daily Travel in the beautiful garden suburb of Konstancin, outside of Warsaw. We sure do appreciate you watching. If you really like what you're seeing, why not subscribe? It only takes you just a second. It's a small moment for you, and it means a lot to us. So keep watching Poland Daily Travel. Tell your friends. We'll see you next time. This is Will, signing off. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily. We're here in Konstancin, and this is a really excellent place to visit when you come to Warsaw. It's about 20 miles south of the center of the city, and we're in a beautiful park. It's me and Nick Richardson, of course, whom you know from reading the news and presenting history programs and lots of other stuff, right, Nick?
Yes.
And sometimes on this program, too.
Sometimes on this program, too, yes.
When he has time.
When you need keeping in check, yes.
When I need keeping, I need somebody to knock me around mentally a little bit. This guy is an important figure. This is Stefan Żeromski. And Stefan Żeromski was one of Poland's greatest writers of the last 200 years. He was a novelist. You might know, if you follow things Polish, a book of his called The Ashes, or just Ashes. It was made into a film, came out in 1965. The film starred Daniel Obryski, if my memory serves, amongst others, of course, famous Polish stars, and was directed by Andrzej Wajda, the great and late. Andrzej Wajda, of course, one of the heroes of cinema in the world, if you like great directors. And Mr. Żeromski was nominated for the Nobel Prize, I believe it was 4 times. He did not win, but nonetheless he was very much in the thoughts of the people who were nominating artists for the Nobel Prize. There were others who did win. Sienkiewicz won, of course, and Remont won, and of course Conrad, who was born Polish but wrote as in English as an Englishman. He also won. But Żeromski was right up there with those guys. He had a lot of greatest hits, and a man well worth investigating. What else about Żeromski? His specialty, you may want to know,
Do you know his specialty?
I don't actually, but I'm dying to find out.
Yeah, his specialty was writing about social issues of the time. He was particularly interested in education for the masses.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which made him very unpopular with the Russian government of the time.
Who've never been interested in education for the masses.
No.
Or much else the masses can.
No. Well, he was interested in that. And I think it was some way of protesting the Russian hegemony in Poland, you know. And,
at that time.
And of course the uprising of, was it 63? Was very fresh in the 1890s, for example, still in people's minds 30 years before. So he was preoccupied very much with the Russian occupation and with ways of combating that and bringing out the Polishness of Poland.
The national spirit.
Well, the national, or just you can say is it the national spirit or is it the just allowing Poland to breathe and feel comfortable in its own skin.
Yes, because we do that time was quite difficult with the country being divided between Austria, Prussia and Russia.
That's it, yeah. And so he's very much a writer of that occupation time and very concerned with those issues. So he's a big guy. I was hoping we would find reason to talk about him. There's a museum, but it's not open today, unfortunately. And I don't know if it's any more, if we could say any more about him than we.
No, I think when you talk about a writer, you can talk about it as we have done a bit of the context, but really the secret is to go and read their books.
You got to go read his books.
And get a feel for them, what they're really trying to say.
Yeah, you should read. I mean, it's people sometimes will say to you. I mean, I've written a few books. I mean,
you've written a few, yeah. We're with two famous writers. This is quite remarkable.
It's nothing really to write home about. No, it's nothing. It's not to make a big deal. But my point is to pick you up right there. And I agree with you, is when people say, oh, I'm not sure what you're like, I say, well, I've written a number of books. It's very easy to find out what I'm like. Where are yours? How am I going to know who you are? It's easy to find out who I am. Just read my books.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a good point. If someone this great is spending, in his case, that great, is spending this amount of time to observe and create this kind of attention, you might want to dip into it.
Exactly.
In fact, it's exciting me. I want to go back and read Ashes again, or maybe watch the film first. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Żeromski, for your work. And he liked to live. He lived here because
he had to live in Constantia.
Yeah, for a while. He also lived in Nałęczów, which is near Lublin.
Right. Okay.
Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's a little town, nice town, spa town near Lublin. At any rate, that's Stefan Żeromski. A man well worth reckoning with. Let's walk on. It's Poland Daily. Stay with us. Poland Daily Travel. We're going to walk on, and I promise you we're going to be at the spring before long.